us reading. Hello. Thank you guys for coming. It's super nice. All right, well, I probably should have asked. I was going to read from the sequel. I don't think there's anything too spoilery, but if people would prefer, I can read from the first book. Does anyone care? No? Okay. So, this book is my most recent novel. It came out earlier this year, which I'm sure most of you already know. Is a new series about Lois Lane in high school and her long-distance friend, Smallville Guy, whose name rhymes with Clark Kent, but she doesn't know that. In the first book, she is moving to Metropolis. She gets a job at the Daily Scoop, which is a new publication for teens that the Daily Planet is doing. And she is very nervous about moving to Metropolis, really wants to fit in and not get into trouble, which of course is not a very Lois thing to do. And so she immediately gets embroiled in a mystery and is starting to kind of find her place in the world. So the second book takes place a couple weeks after the first one and will be out in May. Double down. It is a new standalone mystery, but characters overlap, and we'll see a lot more of her friends. And more of kind of the difficulty of somebody who's never really had friends before, trying to navigate friendships and relationships. But I'm actually going to read you guys, instead of reading the first two chapters, which would probably make more sense, I'm going to read chapter 3, which is really the first Lois and Smallville Guy chapter, because that's usually what people want. And because, you know, the rest would just be setting up a mystery that you then have to wait until May to get the end of. So at least here you'll get some fun flirting before the mystery that you will have to wait until May to get the rest of. So, and I apologize, I've had a cold and I'm still kind of have the drip, so hopefully I won't start coughing. Chapter 3. Lucky for me, Mom and Dad were scheduled to attend some sort of work function tonight, and had told us that morning they'd leave money for pizza. When I got home, a red and white box was already sitting on the kitchen table. My sister Lucy must have ordered it after school. I snagged a slice, folded it in half, and wolfed it down on the way upstairs to my room. Lukewarm pizza wasn't my favorite variety. Piping hot or next day cold both ranked higher, but it wasn't bad. I heard Lucy in her room talking, which probably meant she was playing Unicorn University with her renegade posse of unicorn friends. And I was en route to visit World War III, with its real-time conflict between the worlds of aliens, fantasy creatures, and humans. The Lane sisters, spending their Friday nights in real sim holoset games. I swallowed a drink of water and tried to calm my breathing as I cooked the device's shell over my ear and sat down on the bed. My heart was beating faster, maybe because I've been running around and was late, or maybe because I was on the trail of a new story. But something told me that I had felt the same combination of anxiety and anticipation, even if I was right on time. We were about to see each other, by the only means we had available, as long as Smallville Guy insisted I couldn't know his real identity. I powered up the holoset. My bedroom fell away, the spray of lights in front of my face becoming an altogether different landscape. It felt as real as my room had, grass tickling my always bare in the feet game. 2 low red moons presided over a mostly quiet night. There were the sounds of distant gunfire, normal, and a few closer screeches from night creatures, also normal. A familiar stone turret loomed above me on the sloping hill. I hurried up. The turret was part of Devon's castle, which he was slowly and surely rebuilding. The warheads had destroyed it before we turned them from a psycho squad back into normal gamers. He'd basically given this section to Smallville Guy and me a week ago, jokingly calling it the Lois Annex. Since I hadn't killed him for designing my game character as a pointy-eared elf named Princess Lowe, it seemed a fair trade. Having a quiet, somewhat private place to meet meant Smallville Guy and I weren't constantly interrupted by random attacks from other players who were here to war, not have maybe date night. Smallville Guy stepped out of the turret's shadowy entrance, his light green skin casting a soft glow in the moonlight. He was a standard issue alien here, in contrast to my elf princess. Finally, he called out, walking to meet me. I thought you weren't coming. He designed his character to be tall, but not over-the-top muscle-bound like some player avatars, and he wore a pair of glasses with black frames. I had no idea if any of this corresponded to his appearance in real life, though. I'd never seen him. We'd met on a message board called Strange Skies 2 years earlier, and for whatever reason, he wouldn't tell me who he really was. He said it wasn't safe for me to know. I used to ask him at the end of every one of our nightly chats, but I'd stopped weeks ago after he revealed that he'd told his parents about me and they'd forbidden him to divulge his identity. He promised that he would tell me as soon as he was able. I hadn't even considered the possibility that it might be tonight. He has told her that he has something important to tell her in the game. Sorry, I said when I reached him. I got here as fast as I could. Some news showed up. What was that important thing you had to tell me? I thought you were out on a puff piece. I must have frowned at that because he added, that's what you called it, not me. What news showed up? And though I wanted more than anything to know what he wanted to say to me, I was struck with that shyness that attacked without warning around him more and more often of late. I was not shy. I'd never been shy. But he hadn't answered when I'd asked about the important thing, so I didn't insist he go first. I didn't ask what he wanted to tell me again. Not yet. I responded to his question. I told you Maddie has a twin sister, right? The one James has a crush on? You said you got the feeling the twins were really different, he said. You can say that again. I related the whole afternoon to him, sounding more confident than I was about managing to fix everything, get a story out of it, and not alienate Maddie in the process. This is what we always did. Told each other everything. The thing was, usually when we swapped stories about our day, we were both completely engaged. I was perfectly capable of forgetting how much time had passed and what day of the week it was when we were in the game together or chatting back and forth on our laptops. And I thought it was the same for him. But tonight, he hardly seemed to be paying attention. He was restless instead, lanky alien body meandering around the hillside while I talked. And then the ceiling fell in, and it turned out the entire Daily Planet building had collapsed under alien attack, I said. Everyone died, the end. Huh, he said. And I'll be starring in a musical version of these dark events. No reaction. It stung that he wasn't listening to me. Maybe this had to do with the important something, although I'd assumed the something was good. That could have been way overly optimistic. After all, my luck tended to be bad. I snapped my fingers near his face, not loud or obnoxious, but enough to get his attention. I just told you that the Daily Planet blew up and everyone died and I was going to be in a musical about it. You're a little distracted tonight? He kicked the ground. I'm sorry. So what was it you wanted to talk about? I asked, my heart speeding up again. Stupid heart. What if it was bad news? Or what if it was news that would tell me once and for all whether he thought of these meetings as dates? He came closer, his restlessness evaporating, transforming into smooth, deliberate motion. His hand landed on my elbow, and he led me inside the turret. I don't want anyone to overhear, he said. I'll bet you used that line on all the girls, I quipped, but I was ridiculously aware of his hand on my skin. You're really sitting alone in your room, remember? I told myself, but the game always felt so real, like it might as well be reality. The present moment was no exception. We were in the moment together, and the rest of the world might as well not exist. It could be the fake. What? No, of course I don't. I'm sorry, he said. I'm being mysterious, I know. More mysterious, you mean. Right, more mysterious. There was a hint of the humor that came naturally to us, our state of equilibrium with each other. The torchlit turret's interior was brighter than the moonlight outside of bed. In here, the flickering shadows from the flame dappled his green skin, showing off the blue eyes behind his glasses. He offered me his hand. What's this? I asked. I put my hand in his and my heart sped up again. A maybe surprise that I hope works, he said, to make up for before. His hand closed lightly around mine, and then I gasped. Our feet left the ground, and we floated up and up and up into the tall turret through the air. I've got you, but don't let go, he cautioned. I won't, I said, marveling at how safe it felt to float through space with my hand in his, high above the ground. I laughed. How are we doing this? After a few weeks, aliens developed the ability to fly in here. I wasn't 100% sure I'd be able to bring you with me, so I didn't want to spoil it in advance. Good surprise, Smallville. Not your real identity, but good surprise. He flew us over to a narrow window about halfway up the wall with a ledge and a bench cut into the stone beside it. We smiled at each other, still holding hands. I had already forgiven him forever for being distracted. We sat down on the bench, and his hand left mine. I spread my fingers on the rough stone beside me like I didn't mind that he wasn't holding anymore. Stupid, ridiculous heart, I thought again. Mine was beating so hard I could barely hear myself think over the racket. The window gave us a view of the landscape outside, a squad of mercenaries crossing it then, black-clad and toting heavy artillery. A bat with red lasers mounted on its wings flew by. So the flying was what you had to tell me, I asked. Sort of, he said, but not that flying. Have you been on the boards since this morning? The boards were our shorthand for the forums on Strange Sky's website where we'd met. It was a haven for people who had seen or experienced things that couldn't be easily explained, or for people who claimed they had in some of the less than believable cases. I had first posted there after almost being pummeled by falling rocks one dark night outside Wichita, Kansas. A person flying through the air had saved me from disaster, along with my dad, who'd forbidden me to ever talk about it. I shook my head. No, why? A new user registered today with the handle Insider01, and he or she is claiming that they know details about a flying man, and they'll be posting them on the boards. His expression had changed to show emotion. His skin was pulled tight over the angular bones of his character's face, eyes darkened with worry. It never ceased to amaze me how realistic the effects were in here. What am I missing? That's definitely strange, but why is this a huge deal? When he'd first private messaged me on Strange Skies, he assured me I wasn't crazy, and that I had seen what I thought I had that night. But he couldn't tell me how he knew or who he was or explain any more. It was the only gulf between us, and it seemed narrower or wider depending on the moment. It was always, though, a gulf filled with who knew how many secrets. Nevertheless, sometimes I almost forgot it was there. He raked a hand through his avatar's short black hair. People on the boards are freaking out over it. They want whatever this person knows. I know you know or knew something about the person I saw, I said carefully. Someone else could too, couldn't they? And if there's one flying person, could there be another? I could feel the gulf of secrets spread between us, wider than ever. I don't know what to think. The whole thing feels off. What if this person does know something? About the flying man I saw? I didn't understand what about this was making him so upset. He nodded sharply, but do you think there could be another one? Like, maybe it wasn't the same man? There was a quality to his voice I'd never heard before. I couldn't tell if the possibility made him feel better or worse, hopeful or scared. I couldn't decode it from his expression because he shifted to look out the window. I didn't have a good enough angle to play interpreter of his features anymore, or enough information to translate his reaction without more to go on. I followed his gaze and saw the bat with red-laced lasers along its wings that had flown by earlier. It hovered in the air outside the opening, barely an arm's length away, like it was watching us. If it was, that was new. Is it eavesdropping? I asked. Not for long. Smallville Guy removed his glasses and shot laser vision to the left of the bat. It took off, flapping away into the sky, a deeper red than the lines on its wings. Once it was gone, he scooted, so he was facing me again. What do you think the person plans to post? No clue, I said. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That'd really be something if it was good information. You know I've always been curious, but I'm not getting my hopes up. It'll probably turn out to be someone who's mad no one takes their probe stories seriously, having some fun with the rest of us. They'll probably post that the flying man's from the moon and only eats green cheese. I was sure that would make him laugh, but it didn't. I'm sorry, I said finally. I can tell this is bothering you. Do you want to tell me why? More than you know. But he didn't say anything else. I nodded. You can't. I get it. I expected him to apologize. That's what he would have usually done. Instead, he asked, you really think it's nothing? He was acting so strange, but I wanted to make him feel better. If that's what you want, then I'm going to say yes. It's probably nothing. His shoulders relaxed a fraction. You're probably right, as usual. We smiled at each other, but his didn't last. But Lois, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like a threat. A threat against the flying man. Well, after all, I owed the flying man one. He'd saved me and my dad from certain rock doom. I chose my words with great care. I knew I was treading in dangerous territory. I just didn't know why it was dangerous. Is there some way to alert him? I know you can't tell me how you knew I was telling the truth about seeing a person flying that night, but wouldn't it make you feel better if you could get this off your chest and warn the guy? I had no way of knowing if Smallville Guy could contact the flying man or not, but I knew he knew more than he could or would tell me. It would, he said, but nothing more. I had never seen him like this. He was always the more mellow one, the calm to my chaos. His restless unease was contagious. Like I said, it'll turn out to be nothing. I'll bet you. I put enough challenge in my tone to make it clear the offer was literal. What's the bet? He asked, intrigued. I searched for something good. He'd asked a few days ago if I'd seen the Metropolis Monarchs, his favorite baseball team. Like they'd just be strutting around, tossing balls in the air or something. If you're right and this is truly something to worry about, then I have to go to a Monarchs game and take pictures for you. And also wear a Monarchs sweatshirt and a cap, he said, like I would. I rolled my eyes. Fine, I'll wear the whole costume and take a selfie. It's not a costume, he countered. It's showing team spirit. The whole costume, I repeated. And if I win, which I will, you have to take a picture of Nellie Bly and send it to me every day for a week. Bonus points if Shelby the Wonder Dog is in it too. Nellie Bly was a baby cow a few weeks old we'd named together. Shelby was his golden retriever. Deal, he said. As much as I want those game photos, I hope you're right. It just feels off. Sorry again about before and being so space cadet-y. Ancient history, don't worry about it. And try not to worry about this board stuff so much either. I grinned. I hope I win too. I'll try not to worry, Princess Lowe. Funny, but I stopped when I heard a noise from outside the game, the sound of a door shutting. I knew it was outside the game because Smallville Guy gave not one single sign that he heard it. And it was followed by the distant but distinct jingling clatter of keys being placed on the table by the front door downstairs. My folks just got home, I said. I better go. I wasn't ready to leave, and I didn't think he was either. Thank you, he said. Talking to you always makes me feel better. Double stupid heart. It beat, beat, beat like it might burst. Only he said things like that. My pleasure, sap. In the game, I gave him a wait, and outside it, I reached up to depress the hollow-set power button. I closed my eyes so I wouldn't come out too quickly, which meant I barely had time to leap off the bed and stow the hollow-set in my desk drawer before a knock sounded at my bedroom door. Come on in, I said, faking a yawn. The door hinged in, and my parents stuck their heads in the door. Mom looked beautiful with her honey blonde hair and a schmancy party updo, and Dad was beyond polished, decked out in his dress uniform with all its ribbons and medals. Lucy stood behind them in unicorn-covered pajamas, a dot of chocolate on one cheek. You guys are back early, I said. We just went to the reception, Mom said. Didn't see the point in staying for dinner. Too bad you only left us one slice of pizza, Dad added. Whoops, I said. Night, Lois, Mom said, and eased my door shut again. I waited until I heard their steps go the rest of the way up the hall to their room, then opened up my laptop and navigated to Strange Skies. The post Smallville Guy I had been talking about wasn't hard to find. It was in priority placement, the most popular new thread, nestled right below all the sticky introduce yourself and ground rules posts. There was a flaming fireball next to it that indicated a lot of activity. Even though the timestamp was only a few hours old, it had 600 views and 70 comments. For Strange Skies, that was a ton of action. I decided to open it. I clicked to open it, feeling a resurgence of Smallville Guy's contagious worry. Posted by Insider01 at 3:30 p.m. I know many of you have witnessed a flying man and posted accounts here. I'm pleased to tell you that I have many important details to share about a flying man, and I will be sharing those with you here in the coming days. Keep one eye on the skies and another here. You won't want to miss this. You were very patient. Thank you. Questions, comments, conspiracy theories? Nobody? Should I give away a copy of the sequel? What, Christopher? Come up with a...
Okay.
Come up with a way.
You can't participate in this.
Oh, it's a trivia question.
It's a trivia question. Green kryptonite can kill Superman. One type of kryptonite does something odd to him and gives him a weird power or affects him in some physical way. Anybody know what color that kryptonite is?
I don't know what color.
Oh, come now.
Jedediah Berry.
Is it red?
It is red kryptonite.
All right. Well, like I said, there are stickers for both the first one and the sequel and bookmarks, which you are free to take. And there will be a couple copies fall out at the small beer table, I believe. Thanks. I'm happy to chat or talk or...
How did you get this gig anyway? Did you approach DC or have to pay to go into the character?
I do get that a lot. Christopher knows. That's like the most popular question I get at book festivals. Like how much did you have to pay to get the rights to this? No, I know. You guys all know that that's not how it works. I was just incredibly lucky. My agent, who will be around later tonight, because she lives near here, was approached. They were looking for somebody to do a teen Lois Lane project, and I had told her I'm not really interested in doing anything except focusing on my original work right now. So of course, like 2 weeks later, I get a phone call, and she was like, "How serious were you about that? Because I was approached about something, and they really want you to do it, and I think you'd be perfect for it." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And she's like, "Lois Lane High School, kind of a Veronica Marzi take." And I was like, Yes, I'm very interested. I was like, my only question was basically, well, will there be any freedom, or do they have like some strict outline developed already? And they were like, and so she went back and asked, and they came back and said, no, she will have tons of freedom, and we'd rather it be good than bad, and than that. And I was like, okay, sold. And it turned out to be true. I mean, honestly, like I know a lot of people who've done work like this, and I feel like it's been a tremendous gift because they basically have let me do exactly what I wanted to do with it. And, getting to know all the Lois fandom has been great.
Yeah. And this is actually something I've wondered about when you're working with a character who has such a rich history.
Yeah.
And who's also been through so many incarnations.
Yes.
How did you, I'm curious to know first what your reading process was like. How far back through the comics did you go, or did you look through certain aspects of the character, and also like did you have them much in mind when you were crafting this version?
So I was lucky in two ways. One is that they wanted the first draft pretty quickly, like more quickly than I had produced a novel and turned it in for sure. I had like 3 or 4 months, and I had to do an outline up front. And so I didn't have a whole lot of time. I had to, which was good because, I come from kind of a deadline-driven sort of journalism background, and I find deadlines are very clarifying. And so what I did do was think a lot about, I did not ask them for any ideas up front. They gave me a very, paragraph basically on the contract, and that was it. This is basically Teen Lois Lane. So no Metropolis, no nothing. And I have always just had the thought with work like this that it's better to give something for them to give feedback to than get too much up front, because people get very attached to ideas that they come up with. And so I thought, I will ask nothing, and I will just produce this proposal. And I wasn't sure whether I could have it be science fiction or not. And I really wanted to keep that comic booky super science element, because I think you would lose a lot. It's an alien story. So it really made sense to me that Lois be the first person to start figuring out that as young Superman's out there developing his powers as the first superhero, there are strange things starting to happen in the world. And I knew I wanted to write at Metropolis because I'm a very setting-focused writer. And so I did do some research on Lois's history, and I really tried to think about, and she's a really important character to me. I don't think I realized how much until I got this gig, actually. I was a journalism major in college, and I'm pretty sure that was because of my childhood love of Lois Lane. And so I had always kind of followed her in the comics, and I had always watched most of the stuff, although I had not watched Smallville. And so what I did was bone up on kind of my touchstones and think about the bad incarnations of her. The things that are criticized, the damsel in distress times, the times when she's been treated the worst, and think about her best incarnations and try to really, do the best. And actually Tim Hanley, who is a comics historian, wrote a wonderful book on Wonder Woman called Wonder Woman Unbound, and he has a book coming out about Lois this year. And he was one of the first people who got an early copy, and he sent me an email and told me he was incorporating it into the last chapter. And I just burst into tears because I was really nervous about how the Lois experts would receive the book. And so he has this book called Investigating Lois Lane that's her history, and talks about how she reflects kind of attitudes toward women and the way she's been treated poorly, and how still there's something about that character, her tirelessness and fearlessness and ambition come through even in the worst incarnations, but Superman has also been characterized in a lot of different ways, so yeah, I highly recommend that book. They sent it to me to read and blurb, which is weird, but yeah, no, I think it's a long overdue kind of critical examination of sort of how Lois has been treated in history, but unfortunately it wasn't there for me when I was researching, so I just had to kind of piecemeal it. Luckily, Christopher Rowe, as anyone who's talked to him this weekend, because he's on a comic reading binge, knows all this old stuff that I don't know. So, although the one idea that he had, DC, was the only idea DC shot down out of the original proposal.
It was a fantastic idea.
That I said. They were he was well, you should have the principal be the toy man. And I was like, okay. And so I was and the principal, maybe he's Winslow Shot, early version of Winslow Shot. And they were just, you can push this more in a science fiction direction, all the rest of it's good. But no to this toy man idea. Christopher's like, oh, crushed. But that was really it, besides the fact Superman cannot do anything illegal. Superman can't do anything illegal, so now there is a character called the Inventor who is a bit of a hacker type and does anything that needs to be done that's a little more shady.
Who's he really?
We will find out more about that in Double Down. At least you'll find out his first initial. It might be who you think, and it might not. All right, thank you guys. And again, like, take stuff. I really appreciate your coming. Look, I'm clapping for you. It's weird. People watching Scott's video, I don't clap for myself at the end, at the end of her reading. All right.
But you high-five yourself, right?
Actually, I learned a trick on high-fiving. I used to be terrible. Like, I'm a teacher in case anybody else doesn't know this trick, like, because sometimes you miss. Right? Look at the other person's elbow. I just learned that from another writer at a festival. All right, thank you guys. It's a wrap. We're done.